Welcome to this Class for Kids online event. If you have arrived here, then you do not want to work harder, as that is the theme for this event. Who is going to be hosting this event with me, you may ask? I have two very successful business owners with me. I have Libby Langley and I have Rue Grant. Firstly, we want to hear a little bit from you, Libby. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Libby Langley. I'm a business coach who helps business owners to rewrite the rules so that they are leading their business with happiness. I'm also a podcaster and an author.
Fantastic. And over to you, Rue, a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name's Rue. I am a Instagram coach and I help small business owners reach their goals on Instagram and use Instagram as a platform to gain more visibility for their business.
Well, it sounds like we've got all the ingredients of a very good online event. Shall we get started? Okay, over to you, Libby.
Thank you, Stephen. So, hi, I'm Libby Langley and I'm here to help you work not harder for 2025. And this session isn't really about me teaching you anything. This is about you learning more about yourself and what success means to you. That's how you're going to lay your foundations for a successful 2025. So the thing I want to stress right from the off is that you don't need to work harder to be successful. That's true for every single one of you here today, and this talk will help you understand it. But first, I want to do a proper intro to myself to put some stuff in context for you. So I'm Libby Langley. I started my business in 2011 after a career in education, and I really quickly grew to six figures. I was successful from day one. I took the jump from full-time employment with no real plan. I kind of just decided to start a business, and start a business I did. And I was helping people with their business strategy and marketing strategy and helping people to fall back in love with their business and to grow their business more successfully. Some of those people have been franchisees, some have been franchisors, and some have been independents like me. And over the years, I've worked with about 6,500 people, and whatever the business setup, the similarities of what people want is pretty much always the same. It's about freedom, it's about confidence, it's about balance, and that's the kind of stuff that I help my clients achieve. Success, right? Which means something different to everybody, but more on that in a second. So in 2023, I released my book, which is called Life in Business. And I also host a weekly podcast, which is called Life in Business too. Both of these are for business owners who want a simpler, more effective way to succeed without the constant hustle and grind. So, successful CV, right? You look at me here today, you're listening to what I'm saying, you're thinking, wow, look at all these things that she's achieved. However, let me tell you about some of the things that weren't quite as successful. So, in 2006, I bought a franchise, and in 2007, I gave it back. And the reason I share this with you is because this is all around success and foundations, right? And I know a lot of you watching today will either be franchisees or franchisors, so this feels like a really relevant story to share for you. I bought a franchise. I kind of had an entrepreneurial streak in me all the time, right? I did a lot of things when I was a child. I wrote magazines and sold them. I created pom-poms and gifts and sold them. And so I always had that streak in me. And I didn't know how to do it when I was an adult, because I'd never had any entrepreneurial mentor or guidance through school or through my working life. And so I saw this opportunity to buy a franchise, and I bought it thinking that would mean freedom and success. It didn't, because buying the franchise alone doesn't mean anything, right? You have to still understand about running a business and know what a business really means to you. And I just didn't, right? So it didn't work for me. Partly it was sold, but a lot of it was down to me. So in 2007, I gave it back, worked for another few years, and then I was kind of ready to start up on my own. So like I say, I thought the success was going to come just from buying the franchise. And I thought that success back then was the big house, the double garage, the fancy car, you know, the kind of material stuff. But it's over the years that I've realised, to me, that isn't what it means to me, and that success is very subjective, and that's what I'm going to help you with today. So I ask you, what does success mean to you? Is it the big house when there's maybe only two of you in the household, like there was for me? It makes no sense, right? Or is it things like being able to watch Netflix in the afternoon whilst eating crumpets? You know, that's a good thing for me, right? That's a definition of success for me. Being able to go out and walk in the wilds near where I live and having holidays. This freedom of choice is really my definition of success. It isn't about what other people see, it's about how I feel. And that's a really huge thing to me. And that's what I help my clients to achieve, right? And let me show you how. So, success starts with your foundations. And I use a building a house analogy here because it really helps you to understand why this is important. So when you build a house, obviously you don't start with the roof, right? Because it's going to fall down. But when people start a business, they immediately go to the roof, which is your marketing. And we're going to have another session on marketing after this. But if you start with your marketing, there's nothing to build it on, right? There's no structure to keep it up. So when people say, oh, my marketing's not working, it's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong with your marketing, it's that you don't have the foundations or the walls in place, so the roof is never gonna work. Okay. So you have to start with the foundations. That's really just so important. And you will have a worksheet which will help you with this. So let me talk to you about what your foundations are. So they are things like your vision, your purpose, your mission, your niche, your clients, and your brand. This is the rock solid stuff that doesn't change because you know in your heart that it's the right thing. The walls are about your products, your services, your pricing, that kind of thing, and that can adjust, right? But if this is solid, this is pretty stable but can flex, and then the roof, the marketing just slots on beautifully. Okay, so the questions I'll ask you about your foundations. Oh, actually, just to say, if this is a lot, then I know you've got your worksheet that you've been sent, but if you want a much more detailed guide on your foundations and how to build your house, then go to libbylangley.com/guide or scan that QR code and that'll give you much, much more detail than I've got time to talk to you about today. Okay, so let me ask you these questions. For your vision, what is your vision for your business, right? What is it that you want it to look like and feel like, and for your life too? What is, when you close your eyes, what do you see? And the best way to do this is to be totally honest with yourself, right? And I've been through times in my business where I've done this exercise and I've closed my eyes and I've thought about it, and it is not what I have, right? It is, that included a husband. It is not what I had. But it's not the way the business is set up. You know, I've worked too many hours delivering the wrong things a lot over the years. And so you've got to be absolutely honest with yourself, no matter how hard that is, right? This is the only person here who can determine your success is you. So that's so, so important that you kind of get that right. So how do you want things to look and feel? Really important, okay. And then your mission, this is for you to think about what really matters to you. And it's a slightly different question. They're all subtly different questions, right? But what really matters to you? How do you want to change the world? And no, unfortunately, none of us can change the world overnight on our own, but we can do our own little bit, right? To make the world a better place, to empower more people. So how do you want to change the world? For me, I want to empower more women, and I want to empower more women in business particularly, because I didn't have that, right? I never had that entrepreneurial mentorship growing up. And so to me, it really matters to me that this is an opportunity that we know how to grab hold of, and we have the confidence to do it in the way that we want to. We have the confidence to rewrite the rules of business and just make it how it works for us, right? Because that's so inspiring to other generations, and it does make the world a better place, and I'm really passionate about that. So what do you know, what's your same passion there? And your purpose. What would you like your legacy to be? How would you want people to remember you? What's the kind of movement that you would have liked to have inspired? What are you here to achieve in your working life? Why does any of it matter, right? And your niche, you'll hear a lot of talk about niching in the marketing world, but your niche is really, how are you different? What's your specialism? What are you really focusing on? What's your unique selling point? It's not just the marketing answer this, right? Because we can all come out with something off pat, but what's the true answer about you? And it might be, as children's activity providers, it might be that you specialise in, sure, you're an expert in the thing that you do, be that a dance school or a football school or whatever you are, okay? But you can go even further in that. It could be location, it could be people with disabilities or people who need additional support. So I'm autistic ADHD, right? So a lot of my clients have that, we have that thing in common, because the way you are and the things that you believe, you often attract people who feel or are the same as you. And the thing about really, really niching down, yes, you're cutting off a lot of people, but actually you're just being way more of an expert in the thing that you are really passionate about and that really matters to you. So it's all just easier. And this is kind of what it's all about. And then the clients, who do you really want to work with? More importantly, who don't you want to work with? I don't want to work with big corporates. I like to work with small businesses. I like to know I'm making a real difference. That really, really matters to me. And then your brand, not so much about a brand, your brand guidelines, but this is your brand. This is how you want to project yourself, how you want people to see you, how you want the kind of tone, fun or serious, all of those kind of things, is if it's really you or not. And if it's not, how could it be more you? And these are the questions that if you answer these truthfully and honestly, and it's hard, right? That's why I said if you need more on this, the guide that I mentioned on the previous slide will be helpful to you. But this stuff, if you really, really dive deeply into this, this is going to make your business better. And it's going to make it more fun, and it's going to make it easier. And this is where success comes from, right? Okay. So I ask you again, what does success mean to you? And I think if you've been through the exercise and you've spent a few minutes, a few days, weeks, months, years thinking about that and what's really, really inside you, then actually what success means to you will be the easiest question that you have ever answered. And my guess is that it won't be about the material things. Nothing wrong with having a nice house, right? Nothing wrong with having a nice car, but that won't be the motivator. That'll almost be the, look, I'm so happy and so comfortable and so joyful in myself, and also I can buy a really nice car, right? It becomes the side product rather than the thing itself, and it's the thing itself which is you. And that's the driving force in any successful business. But your business has to be fully and truly aligned with you in order to be successful at all, right? Otherwise, you're just measuring money, and that's like it's just nothing, right? There's no soul to it. And we want you to really believe in what you're doing and to know that it comes from your heart. Because on the tough days, of which there always are, that's what keeps you going, because you know that absolutely you are on the right path, and that is the right path to success by having your solid foundations in place. Okay, so any questions are always welcome to be fed back on this. Thoughts are great to be shared, and comments, obviously, we like to know what's going on with you. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Instagram, you can listen to my podcast, and you can read my book. But I want you to really think about yourself in all of this, and to dive deep, to be totally honest, and to sit and cry, if something isn't right, because this is all about the process of moving forward. But what matters is you, because you're the driving force in your business. You are the one who's going to change the world.
Thank you so much, Libby. That was fantastic, and I hope that everybody listening was taking notes and had a lot of takeaways from that. Now, to keep the momentum going, we're going to go straight to Rue, so over to you, Rue.
Hi everyone, my name is Rue from Pure Gala Social. I am a Instagram consultant and professional attention seeker. I've been doing this work since 2008, but in the last 3 or 4 years I have just been super focused on Reels. So what I'm going to speak to you about today is how to supercharge your reach with Reels on Instagram. There's going to be lots of things that you can take away and do straight away, so get your pen and paper ready. The first thing we're going to talk about, because it wraps around everything that you're going to do on Instagram, is how the algorithm works. And it's actually really basic. People like to make it sound really complicated. It isn't. Basically, all that happens is you put up a reel, it's shown to around 80% followers, 20% non-followers. And if they engage with it, which is what we hope happens, and they watch it, it's going to get sent to more people, and more people outside of your current audience on Instagram. If it doesn't work, it looks a little bit more like this. You post your reel, it goes to your 80% followers, 20% non-followers, and then if you have tumbleweed, then you're going to get tumbleweed reach. So what does that mean for your reels? You need to be creating algorithm food. The algorithm is a hungry monster, but it's not hungry for content as you might imagine. It's actually hungry for attention. And as far as the algorithm is concerned, that attention generally comes in the way of likes, comments, shares, etc. And your job is to keep people on the platform giving the algorithm monster as much attention as praise as possible. So here's all the stuff that the algorithm loves to see: likes, comments, saves, shares, and view time. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how to discover the kind of content for your niche that creates this algorithm food, and how to research that, and then some cherries on top. So step one, you're going to need to research your menu. Someone in your niche already has the perfect recipe for high engagement and high views. It's already been done. So it makes no sense to try and reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Instead, you're going to want to do some heavy research. There are 3 ways I'm going to show you to do that research. The first one is just to research here on Instagram. So you can do that by typing in any keyword from your niche. So if you were like a nail technician, you could put nail art. Go to the Reels tab and find Reels that have over 1 million views to analyze. Note the hook. So that's whatever made you stop to watch it. That could be a written hook, something that's written on it. It could be something visual. Note the topic that that's on, and note the editing features from that particular reel. So that could be voiceovers, transitions, how somebody is framed in the reel itself, and note the questions asked in the comments. You can repeat that for 15 reels in 5 different keywords. A quicker way to do that, because I'm all about shortcuts, is that you could use a program called Viral Finder, which is free up to a point, where you can search for any handle and it will tell you all of their reels, and you can order their reels by comments, likes, and views. And similarly, you can use a Chrome extension called Sort Feed, which does the same thing. So you can choose whether it's comments, likes, or views, and it will rearrange their whole feed. So if you have creators that you know are killing it in your field, you can see what their best performing content has been. Put your research into a spreadsheet. I like to make sure that I'm noting as much information as I can, and then you're going to analyze that, just looking for trends in editing styles, caption styles, topics, audios. Or again, if you want to hack your time a little bit more, because I know that everyone is short on time, you can actually give that spreadsheet to ChatGPT and ask it to look for trends and give you notes on that. So that will shortcut that analysis piece. I like to use AI and technology wherever possible because I'm a mum and I'm busy. Step 2, you're going to use that information to build your ongoing strategy for your reels. So first, you noted all those topics that the reels were on. You're going to find the top 3 to 5 performing topics and use them as your core themes for your content. So that could be, we call them content pillars. So that can be a mix of the ones that are most popular, but you also want to be mixing in anything that's really important to you and your specific business. Then you're going to identify 3 to 5 content types for you to try out that have been really popular. So that could be piece to camera pieces, a bit like this. It could be lip syncs. It could be footage with text over the top. Work out what's working best in your niche and then add your own flavor on top. And you're also going to want to look at how those reels were edited. Did they have lots of cuts? Did they have zoom ins or zoom outs? Was it one continuous shot? Does it have closed captions? Look at all that stuff and work out what is recurrent in the most popular reels in your niche and apply that to your own content. The most important thing is that your recipe needs your secret sauce. And that is you, the things that make you and your business unique. So don't just become a carbon copy of everyone else's content. You need to be adding in your own branding, your own personality, your brand and your business's personality to make it unique and perfect for you. And then the last stage is going to be the cherries on top. These are aspects that you can add to your reels that we know add to views and add to engagement. The first one is hook stacking. So if you've ever done research around Instagram Reels and what makes them work, you'll have heard people talking about hooks a lot. And a hook is just stuff that happens in the first 3 seconds of a video to make somebody stop scrolling and watch. Generally speaking, when people are talking about a hook, they mean a written hook, so something that's written on your video. But it can also be an audio hook, which is something you can hear, or a visual hook, which is something you can see. Written hooks often follow one of these formats. This is not inclusive of every kind of written hook that you could possibly do, but things like intriguing questions, things that inspire FOMO, fear of missing out, things that show your audience that they have a knowledge deficit, all work really well as written hooks. Audio hooks, they can be spoken, so that could just be you saying the written hook. It can be a musical hook, so a trending audience or an audience-specific audience. So for instance, if you run dance classes and you know all the kids are rocking out to a particular song and then you use it in your reel, that's going to be hooky for your specific audience. Or something unusual, like who's not going to stop scrolling if they hear whale song, right? Something weird. And then lastly, something people don't think about a lot is sound effects. So sound effect hooks like a whoosh or a click in the first few seconds also help with your content being a little bit sticky. This is used a lot, particularly in dance reels, where they'll add little sound effects to punctuate certain movements in dance. So that can be really, really useful. And then lastly, visual hooks. So that can be things like movement. Dance is great. If you're doing classes with kids where they're doing sport, there's going to be a lot of movement anyway. Anything sort of an unexpected visual. Color that's unexpected, that could be bright color, it could be black and white, anything that's a little bit different. It could be editing, it could be angles, like filming from above, filming from below. It could be just exceptional beauty. So somebody who is particularly beautiful, a beautiful animal, a beautiful landscape. The best of the best at Reels are stacking hooks. So they're not just using one of these hooks, they are using a wide range of these hooks in the first 3 seconds. And that's going to really help them stop the scroll. So that could be that they're using audience-specific audio. They have a written hook that's going to be interesting. They've used a voiceover to say it. There's sound effects. They're filming in a beautiful location. And they'll have a whole bunch of this all happening right in those first 3 seconds. So if you do nothing else apart from that, from this video, then that's going to be helpful. The next thing you might want to think about is highly savable content. Saves are an engagement on Instagram that's forgotten about a lot. So things like lists, guides, blueprints, tips and tricks, tutorials, these are really useful for increasing your engagement, which increases your views. That's that algorithm food. If you want to increase comments, if that's how you want to feed your algorithm monster, then conversation starters are going to be perfect for you. So asking a genuine question or opinion that people are going to want to get back to you with, or expressing a controversial opinion. If you were a food critic and you said, I don't really get cheese, I don't care why anyone likes cheese, that's weird, and that's a bit of a controversial opinion, you know people are going to be in the comments. we all know the reels that we see where we run to the comments to see what people are saying because we know it's a bit controversial. That can be great. Obviously, don't step into politics or anything too crazy. Next, we have shareability. Shares are one of the most powerful aspects on Instagram right now. But to understand how to get more shares, which is one of the best algorithm foods, we need to understand why people send content to their friends or share content to their stories at all. So shares are all about how the sharer wants to be seen. So when somebody shares something to their story or sends something to a friend, they usually want to be seen as funny, virtuous, or knowledgeable. So the best kind of content for getting shares helps them display those three aspects. So that could be relatable humor so that they seem funny. It could be socially aligned content. So that's content that shows something that they feel strongly about. So for instance, that could be sharing, if you were very pro LGBTQI+, it could be sharing something around that, some educational content around that, around Pride Month. Or something with unique insights. Because people want to seem smart, they're going to share things that they think are clever. Another really good way to supercharge unique insights content is with immediacy. So if it's news, people share news a lot. And then I think lastly, watch time and retention. How are we going to feed the monster with more watch time? For high watch time, you need a reel that is above 7 seconds and generally between 15 and 25 seconds, but definitely below 45 seconds. And we need to look beyond the hook. A really good way to increase your watch time or retention is to validate why people should be listening to you in the first place. So if you are saying, here's 3 tips for XYZ, why should someone care that they're your 3 tips? If your next line validates why they should listen, that can really help with your watch time. So for instance, if I was saying these are my top 3 tips from someone who's had over 40 million views on Instagram, that validates why you might want to listen to my advice. There will be things like that in your field. How are you going to validate your experience if you're giving any advice? Next, cut out the fluff. If you're making a reel, you want to cut out anything that's not necessary. Generally speaking, the quicker and snappier they are, the better. So if you are doing a talking piece like this and you notice there's a sentence in there that the reel would be just as good without, cut it out. You also want to cut out anything like breaths or pauses if possible. And then adding narrative. So we call it adding storytelling. If there is storytelling in a piece of content, your audience is going to be much more likely to want to watch it from beginning to end. So if you're telling the story of a student in your class, for instance, that is going to be a lot stickier for somebody and they're going to want to watch it for longer with that story ongoing in the reel rather than just, videos of kids doing badminton or kids dancing. So how can you add narrative to your reels? And save the best to last. If you are showing 5 kids doing their best freestyle dance, and you're going to want to see the last one. Number 5 is amazing. That means people are going to watch from 1 all the way through to 5, and it's going to increase your watch time and retention. Something I'm asked a lot about is trending audio. Do you need to use it? It's a nice to have. You definitely don't need to be using it all the time. Just make sure that if you are using a trending audio, it's relevant to your audience. For instance, if you have kids classes, you might not want to use Eminem or Cardi B as the background music for your classes, stuff that's a little bit more adult, so keep it hyper relevant. If you're going to be using something that's trending, make sure it's trending in your niche, not somewhere else. And you can do that by clicking on that audio file, and you can check out what other kinds of creators have used that audio. If it's all cat videos, it's probably not going viral in your niche. So look for things that maybe have a lot of kids in the footage or it would be attractive to a lot of parents. And try and be early. So if it's got thousands upon thousands upon thousands of views or uses, it's maybe a little bit late. So how are you going to rate your success in Reels? Looking just at your views and looking just at your engagement is not a great measure of how well your content has done. If you are recreating a reel just because it got lots of reach, that could just be because you picked a really good early trending audio, and it might be nothing really to do with the content inside. Instead, if you take your engagement on that reel and divide it by your follower count times 100 to find a percentage, that's going to give you an engagement rate for that particular piece of content. And that's how many people that saw it engaged with it. That is going to be a lot more powerful than simply how many views it got, how many likes it got. And what's good when it comes to engagement rates? Here are some of the percentages. This has been quite widely studied of what the average engagement rates are for posts in different sized accounts. So you can rate it against this, see how well you're doing. And that is everything that I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching.
Fantastic insights and fantastic presentations from both you guys there. I mean, you very much completed each other's sandwiches. The whole story is kind of one. The house, the roof, marketing, the building. Very, very good. And again, I hope that everybody out there has been listening and taking notes. Now, we'd like to go into some questions we have for both of you, if that's okay. And you haven't seen these questions? No, it could be anything. It could be anything. Have I seen them? That's another question. Okay, Libby, I'm going to ask you first.
Yep.
What mindset shifts are essential for small business owners to create a solid foundation for growth?
Okay, the biggest mindset shift that people can have is realising that the business is about them and comes from them rather than the external, what it should be.
Okay, yeah. Focus on the provision and what the services you're providing, and don't take it too personal. Is that what you're meaning?
No, I mean, it is very, very personal.
Right, okay.
So leading from how you want the business to be and what your vision is, rather than what everybody else is doing,
right, okay.
or the way that you're told that businesses should be. You can make a business in any way that you like.
That moment, isn't
For
it?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is quite deep. Good advice. Rue, over to you. How do I know which social media platform I should focus on, and should I be on all of them? And how do I decide which ones are worth our time? That's kind of 3 questions.
That's kind of 3 questions. It's a bit cheeky, but
yeah, we'll kind of let you
go with
juggle
it.
them. Yeah.
So what social media platforms should you be on? Generally speaking, that's going to depend on where your audience are.
Okay.
So I'd imagine for a lot of people that are for Class for Kids, targeting parents, you're probably looking at Instagram and Facebook as your big 2, maybe with a little bit of TikTok in there, maybe for some of the cooler younger parents. The handy thing about those 3 platforms, though, if you're trying to save time, is that they are all currently relying on short form videos. So you can create one video, post it across all 3, so you can hit all 3. Instead of deciding which platforms that you want to be on, I would always start from a position of what kind of content am I going to make. So for instance, short form video. And then that's going to allow you to choose platforms based on the content that you've got, instead of creating content for all these different platforms, burning yourself out completely, and then deciding, I hate social media, I'm taking 3 months off, burn it to the ground.
Yeah.
So I would always suggest going for short form video and then posting it across multiple landscapes. You can also be posting that on Pinterest and on YouTube Shorts.
It's so interesting these days that, I mean, short form video can be relevant to every type of business.
Yeah.
In the past, there was probably, I mean, I've seen plumbers. I've
Yeah.
seen just builder.
Like the pool guy, he's amazing.
He's great.
I
Actually,
love
do
the
follow
pool
him.
guy.
Have you seen him?
Everyone
And
follows the
he's
pool guy.
rich now, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's not cleaning them pools anymore.
But if you told us 5 years ago that we would all be perfectly happy sitting watching a guy clean pools.
Yeah. Do you know one of my favourites is, I've got a guy that I just watch fixing iPhones.
Oh, stunning.
I like the ones where they do the yard cleanups.
Yeah.
Those are good.
You know, they go in and
yeah.
they trim all the edges and they
knock
mow the
door
lawns.
and say your garden's a
Yeah, I'll
site.
do
I can watch them for too long.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, it's every business. It applies literally to every business, and I suppose it's about being creative about what that is as well.
Yeah, like you don't, if you're a plumber, you don't need to just be like, here's 3 tips for keeping your pipes clean. Like, make it funny, make it about you, make it entertaining. I think the big thing that we forget about when it comes to social is that people are there to be entertained.
Yeah, it's social media. You know, I mean,
It's
that's
meant to be fun.
Yeah.
It's not place to advertise, as in it's not a billboard.
No, it's not a buy now, but it is a, we'll leave this little thought in your brain. Maybe see you later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Exactly. It's a builder. I don't know if
It's a
that answered
builder.
the question at all, but we went there.
It answered all three, I think. Okay, how do you navigate price? How should a business navigate price increases for their services? We know everybody knows you need to raise prices, but some people are afraid of the reaction the customers might have to those prices, particularly in this day and age.
Yeah, it's difficult because I think if you're really passionate about your business, you want to provide the service and you would happily do it for nothing. And the fact that you have to charge for stuff sometimes becomes like a resentment in yourself too. But the most important thing is to think about it the other way around, really, is to do the exercise of what income you want, what income you need to cover all of your household expenditure, the life that you want to live, all of those things, and then look at the capacity that you have in order to be able to deliver. So do you want one client who pays you a lot of money or 100 clients who pay you less money? And how many hours a week do you want to work? So this all is that comes from you and shapes the business. And then you can work out what sort of charge you should have. And yes, there's often an industry standard charge for things, but that doesn't, you can ripple that up because people will pay more for, say, smaller class sizes or really specialist tuition or a nice venue or the most fun classes. And if you think of cars, all cars get you from A to B, but you can spend £5,000 on a car and you can spend 500 grand on a car. So there's a price bracket for everybody. And really it does lead from what kind of business you want, what your brand is about, what your purpose is, what your mission is. And then you can price accordingly from that. But you will only know if you need to raise your prices if you really look back at how the business is structured and your own life and what that costs to create. Therefore, what you need to charge people in order to facilitate that. But it's not just the end. That the end is not where to start, which is what people often do. It's from you and what you want. That's the most important thing. But price rises are tough,
Right across, I mean, we've got, one of the things we come across so much when we're out and about is talking to these clubs about what they're charging. And you find that the same, you have an equivalent dance school that might be charging £50 a month for the kids, so 4 sessions a month. And some of them are charging 10, just like £2.50 a session.
But you can do it in two ways. And again, this is a conscious decision that you have to make. You can charge less and have more people, or you can charge more and have fewer people. And they can work out to be exactly the same. But that's a conscious choice. And so many people don't make that choice. Like for me, in my business, I like fewer clients that I can really work deeply with. Therefore, the pricing, I mean, I'm not super premium, right? But, the pricing is more. Whereas other people say if they create like a downloadable product, you can charge 20 quid for it because it's volume. So it's different businesses.
Applies very much to the kids' activity industry as well.
Yeah.
We've got a number of clubs we work with who are in their space premium clubs.
Yeah.
And they are, I think that what they do is some of them are brought on board, say it was a football club, Premiership players, every now and then as coaches, and they get like with their £50, £20 a month, they get the uniform, they get, and they've kind of elevated themselves in that way to kind of justify it as well. But people shouldn't be afraid at all to investigate price rises. It can be something that's absolutely critical to grow in the business if that's where you want to go.
And it's whatever your vision is. It's up to you to decide. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Rue, let me get these specs back on. And we'll go over to you. How do we collectively build a community online, and how do we keep people engaged and happy? That's another double question for you.
I know.
Seems to be kind of
Very cheeky.
slated that way. That's okay.
So building a community online is really all about making sure that you have a message for people to rally behind, right? You've got something that unites people. So if you are just out there just saying like, there's football classes, you want to come? That's not really going to incite it's not going to inspire. If your message...
What would is...
What would is...
I thought you were going, hey, we're doing football classes.
Well, yeah, so like if you're doing, I don't know, if you were saying, we work with young men from troubled backgrounds who are, they're on a path, get them on the right path, get them away from gangs in London, get them away from this. And we need you to rally behind this message. We need you to bring your young men. We're using football, but as a vehicle for mental health. Whatever your message is, whatever your thing is, that has to be at the front. That's what a community rallies behind. If you think of any communities that you're part of, you're not part of them for no reason. You're part of them because they are moving towards something that you think is important. And keeping that going is really about sticking authentic to that piece of messaging. I think something that a mistake people make a lot online is that they start off with a really strong message and they think like, this is really important to me. And then like money comes in and their venue price starts going up and they start to lose track of what that message was and their messaging becomes generic. And they start just tossing, well, we've got football classes, they're really important. They're important for the community, but they're not pushing that agenda anymore. And I'd say that is usually where that community vision, that community feeling starts to drop off.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I think I've probably been guilty of that in the past. Where it's like the passion thing, where you're at the peak of it going, oh, right, okay, we're going to build on the community right now. I'm getting this business idea and it's up there and going, but you need to have that hook, the initial hook that it's kind of going back to what you said.
I was going to say it's exactly what I said in my talk, and the kind of message that I preach to people is that this is your business, and so it has to be led by you. And whatever the niche or the specialism is, if you really believe in it, you've got to keep talking about it, and it will attract the right people. But the more you dilute that, the more you lose your uniqueness, and the harder it becomes. It's, exactly the same. Yeah, absolutely.
These are great answers to great questions. I'm going to see if I can get you a doubler now because I think it's only fair.
Exciting.
Okay? Let's see. Is in here? Yes, there is. Okay, how would we work out a club's vision and mission statement and purpose, right? From the club, right from the base, and what is important in that kind of mission? Do you know what I mean? Like right from the off. That's something you help with as well.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was talking about in my presentation. Really, is that how do you do it? Well, you sit and ask yourself the questions.
Do you know what? It's almost like it's to come back to that one again.
They're all
they're all kind of linked in here because it's about what's the purpose, what's the vision. It's got to be the main thing. You know, it's that. Yeah, it's the football club that is supporting mental health through.
Well, that the handout that goes along with my talk, working through that and just sitting in that kind of uncomfortable space of what do we actually stand for? What do we actually care about? Sure, we provide really great dance classes, but it's got to be more than that in order to be really sustainably successful, I think, because it's the passion that will drive things, because sometimes things become really difficult and it's like, what gets you through that difficult thing? If you believe in your mission, if you believe in your quest, then it will always be easier. But to answer the question of, how do they do it? It's asking themselves those separate questions. What do I care about? What matters to me? What is the point of any of this? Why am I different to other people? Why is what they're doing not right for me? And just doing a kind of in and out list and making those decisions and having the confidence to stick to what you really, really believe in, however left field that is. It doesn't matter because there's a market for everybody out there.
I mean, do you ever remember the initial Google mission statement?
No.
It was
really simple.
3 words.
Yeah, it was.
Don't be evil. Yeah. I don't know if they stuck to that. but that kind of shows, again, that as an example shows the ideology that existed at the beginning of that company. I don't think that would be the mission statement anymore. But that was obviously...
There's a few companies that could
but they didn't,
embrace that these days.
Stick to that. That's the thing. They didn't, if they had, they could have probably solved all the problems in the world. But they've definitely veered from that initial mission statement. Okay, let's see if we can get one more in each, if that's okay. Okie dokie, Roo. Around children and social media privacy and permissions.
Yes.
Okay, which is something that's quite tricky to navigate at times. We we encounter that because when we're going out to club shoots, we're also having to make sure that the permissions are there for the kids that we're shooting, and we're all disclosure checked. What's the best way to communicate our social media policy to parents and reassure them that their children's privacy is respected?
Right. So obviously, at any point, you should be getting permissions to have images taken of children. I'm sure that's all already happening.
Yes.
When it comes to the online landscape, obviously that needs to be adhered to very, very, very strictly, that you're not putting children's faces on social if they've asked not to. There are loads of programs that you can use now that will blur out an individual child's face or their likeness so that you can still use them. You can use CapCut to do that. Even with images, you can use CapCut to do that, which is an app that a lot of people will just have on their phone for video edits. And you can also use a blurring effect and just use a small, you can sort of shrink it down so it's just over one child's face. Because what I hear a lot when I've done social media for like large events that have a lot of young people or whatever, is that it's actually the capturing that's difficult. The minute you know you've got a kid that their parent doesn't want them on social media, then you start feeling anxious and stuck. I mean, like, I'm trying not to take their photo.
I mean, if Brian's filming this, if Brian could come into this, he experiences this all the time.
I'm sure it's like that. It's like you're trying to avoid them, and that's cool. But realistically, it's probably not going to happen. Like, they're going to end up in a really good shot.
Be side face or something. Somewhere,
exactly. So generally speaking, put a blur or a even some people just put like an emoji over somebody's face, like a little like smiley face emoji over somebody's face. That can work quite well. I personally would do that, but I would still communicate back with the parent of that child to say that's what I've done, just in case. Most parents are okay with that.
Fine. That there've been a number of other reasons across the years when we've been out shooting. Some of them heart-wrenching, actually, that we can't film the kids.
Absolutely.
But I mean, even me, to answer this one, like baseline, get those permissions in. What's quite good about the software that we provide is that it's got that baked in.
Fabulous.
So if we go to a club shoot where Brian's out filming, they can go down the register straight away and say, hey, you can't film Jane. You know, and more often than not, it's everybody. That's fine because that's kind of the way of it these days. And more often than not, the parents will want to take that video and share it with Granny in New Zealand, you know?
Absolutely. I think as well, like, with regards to accidentally putting a child online. You need to be really mindful that, like, accidents happen. You're obviously going to take it down as quick as you can, but once something's been online, it has a digital footprint. So I would always be going through content where a child may be involved that shouldn't be online with a ridiculously fine tooth comb. Because once it's been online, that could be, if it's been up for an hour, as you're saying, there are child protection issues. There could be somebody out there that's looking for that child who that child doesn't want to be, found. And all it can take is it being up for 5 minutes. So don't make the mistake to begin with, which I know seems like such a basic thing to say, like, just don't make the mistake. But just don't make the mistake. It's really serious.
Well, that's it. I mean,
really
that's
serious.
The baseline answer. That's okay. Okay. Will we end with a Libby question? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see if I can dig a really hard one out. Okay, we'll end with, and this could kind of go between both of you as well. Do you have any tips or tech recommendations, right, to make life easier running a business? So we will do this both, because I mean, even there you were offering up some nice tech.
I love tech.
Yes, I like my tech. But in your space, is there anything that you could recommend in that?
Yeah, I mean, I use tech for everything. So it depends on what the business is, but there are things like email marketing software is really important. I recommend Kit, formerly ConvertKit, because it's a good way of communicating with people. Obviously, that's built into Class4Kids software too. But if for some reason you're here and you're not using Class4Kids, then there are alternatives out there. But it depends on the nature of the business. But absolutely, email marketing software is really, really important because it's compliant and also it's just more efficient. There are things like Zapier or Zapier, depending on how you pronounce it, which allows for trigger actions to happen based on a certain starting point, which is incredibly useful for hundreds of different things.
We're using Zapier.
Yeah.
for this right now, because that's baked in with the actual sign up process.
Yeah.
'Cause nobody watching would know that, but
Yeah.
that's all behind the
Oh,
scenes.
it saves absolutely hours for things. You know, and there's lots of hosting software for where you can, if you're running online sessions as well as your in-person ones, and then there's all the social media tools too.
Hey.
Segue.
Hey. Social media tools. Some of my favourite tech at the moment. First one, which I'm sure is one that was on the tip of your tongue, is ManyChat, which is a DM automation platform. It is approved by Instagram. They are happy. It's a third-party app that Instagram is happy with you using. And basically, if you put as a call to action on a reel or any other piece of content, comment keyword
Yep.
below, and I'll send you a link to the sign up form, or I'll send you a freebie, or I'll send you
On Instagram
the
as
email.
well?
Oh, it's on Instagram. If
So is
they
it- would
leave that
this-
comment,
Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, you're
would,
okay.
would this negate like the need for link in bio?
oh, it completely kills link in bio. I've
Okay.
not said link in bio for about 18 months.
This is very interesting.
So so you basically, someone comments that keyword, then it will automatically DM them a range of responses that you program in.
Okay.
So for me, I use that to collect emails. I use that to sell my products. I use that to give just people general free advice, free stuff,
Yep.
free links and stuff, because people are going to ask me for links. I don't have time. If you're in your lazy girl business era like I am, I don't have time to be answering all those DMs. So ManyChat will do that automatically. It's fairly inexpensive. So I would say I've added thousands of people to my email list, and I would say probably around 70%, maybe not as high as that, maybe 65% of my sales at the moment are actually triggered through DM automation, which means that I'm not selling in the DMs, I'm not having conversations. It's all happening automatically.
Yeah, I mean, this is new to me and us in here as well, and it's something we'll probably talk to you about after that.
It's super cool. You can also like do things like set a delay, so like say wait an hour and then send them a follow-up message to say like,
Oh,
how did you enjoy the XYZ?
Love it.
So I have one,
It's like a CRM, but
kind of, yeah, but you're like right in
it's
those
just
DMs.
concentrated right in the DMs.
There's lots
my
of
favourite.
The best thing about any of these tools is that the amount of time and effort that it saves.
Like it takes time to
think.
set up, and
Yeah.
then
You don't
it's
have
gone.
to think about it.
So I've
And
got 5, and they just run.
yeah,
amazing.
anything like that is great. And I mean, you know, AI in its kind of purest form, like ChatGPT, for example, which everybody will have heard of by now, that can be really useful for helping you think about setting up these processes. So it's like, at the moment, I do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and this. How could I make that simpler?
Yeah, how can
because you
that
don't
workflow you cut out
yeah,
those 6
you don't know
steps.
what you don't know, right? So if you ask something like ChatGPT, they won't necessarily recommend the right tools for it, but you can find that out. But it can say, well, why don't you do
not
this
bad at
or try
finding
and
tools.
automate? Yeah.
No, yeah,
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Further
great,
down the
it's not
line,
bad.
in the next few weeks, I think that we're going to probably pull together a different online event specifically around the use of AI for the activity clubs.
Yeah.
Because we use it a lot now, I think, and we use. I mean, there's a number of products. Again, Brian behind camera, he could let you know a few of the ones we're using for video, but it's using it as a tool is becoming.
I couldn't. It saves me, I don't know, hours every week of just kind of trying to work stuff out. I mean, you've got to be careful about getting it to write content for you because
yeah.
you can spot it a mile
yeah,
off.
absolutely.
However, you can put your own content in and say, how could this better appeal to this audience, or how could this read in a more cohesive way? You know, for that kind of editing stuff, it can be quite helpful.
And for like a couple of prompts that I really like using for social for it is like to give it reels, at least have my clients usually give it reels like scripts if they're doing like a talking head reel, and give it a script and be like, this needs to be 35 seconds long.
Yeah.
And it'll like cut the fluff.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really handy.
I've used that. For example.
Yeah.
We used it. We had kind of bullet pointed brief the other day, where essentially maybe 20 different bullet points were what we were going to need to turn into a narrative script. Yeah. We've not used it yet, but I was like, okay, that needs rewritten, but it's
Aye, it's never
50%
quite right.
there. You know, yeah. You need to humanise.
It always, like, for me, I feel like ChatGPT always just puts too many adjectives. It's like adjective soup.
Well,
I'm like, calm down.
Not to go too much off piste, and we'll wrap this up in a minute. I asked ChatGPT that I've been training this node for ages, right? I just said, what do you think I'll look like? Because it obviously can give me images.
Yeah,
And it done me this very pretty image of a lady in the kitchen with a cup of tea.
Oh.
And I was like, oh.
No,
Bless his heart.
mine is superb. I shared mine on LinkedIn. not that long ago. Mine's superb, actually. And funny enough, I'm wearing a T-shirt that's, you know, like this,
Really?
and jeans,
Oh my God, like,
and
you
the
got-
kind of, like the trainer boots and stuff, and my cap's there. And it's like, I talk to this way too much about my life. It knows me better than I know myself. You know,
Another
so
sort of like AI-based bit of tech that's really cool as well, like your sort of clients might like as well. There's a site called FounderPal AI, and it's got a bunch of tools where you can give it a bit of information. So it's got one that's like for customer personas, where it says like, what's your business, who's your target audience, and it'll sort of make a customer persona up for you with like pain points and all that kind of stuff. Because for a lot of people, and people who are listening to this might fall into this camp, they can learn all the stuff, but they find it really hard to reflect it onto themselves in their own business and to think about it. They're like, I get the theory, but I can't make it about me. And that's quite common. So that was like another cool one that I use with clients all the time. I'm like, if you're just stuck, like here's a starting point. And then you can even just give that to ChatGPT to go crazy with.
I think the one thing that I like about this, this tech's been around for years, right? But it's very mainstream now, and it's actually quite straightforward for any of us to, because I'm pretty tech savvy, but I'm not a computer, like scientist or anything. So it's about kind of embracing your fear with it, but understanding that actually some of this stuff can be quite straightforward if you just have a go and like, whoa, and that gives you the confidence to do it again. It's not about becoming a tech whiz at all. And it's not about diverting your business into being a tech business. It's about, do you know what? 4 people used to do this job, or it used to take me 10 hours a week. Maybe, just maybe, there's some app or something that can help with this.
And that's it. And investigate, and this is to everybody out there, like, investigate these things, and we'll work towards bringing a different online event where we're discussing just that, because it is like, I think that whilst our software, Class for Kids software, what we essentially do is save time. Right? I mean, that's
So
the main
important.
thing. We've got somebody that's a dance teacher that got into it because of the passion.
Yeah.
And then they're down the line and the business is growing and things. They're not getting to spend the time on that passion at all. So we relinquish some more of that time for them, but so can this technology. And it's all about saving time. Well, listen, that has been fantastic. Lots of learnings for everybody to take away. A really good discussion at the end. And thank you so much for coming along and taking part in this today for us, guys. So, Rue Grant, Libby Langley, thank you very much. And we'll see you at the next event.